The following is a production of Salt and Light Radio in Boise, Idaho. Kick off your work boots and pull up a boulder. It's time for Man Cave, discussing the issues that affect Catholic men in today's culture. Grab your favorite beverage, pick out a comfy spot around the campfire, and enjoy today's conversation with our two favorite cavemen, Pat King and Brian Howe.
Hi, welcome back to the Pat King's Man Cave. I've got my special guest back here, Luke Sesnick. We had a little snafu with our previous recording to discuss Freedom Flight. No, we're not going to get back into his history. That's one and done. We're done. We know everything about him. We don't need to know anymore. But he does have an interesting mission that he's been doing for how long? 35 years?
34 years.
34 years? Okay. Trying to age you a little more.
Yeah. We started in 1989.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he does a balloon. He's a balloon pilot, and his mission is they have the balloons. They have 4 balloons that fly all over the country, just in the United States, right? You don't go outside.
Been in 6 different countries.
6 different
42
countries.
different
wow.
states. Yeah.
Okay, so he flies the POW MIA balloon, and he happens to have the one with the 3D imagery on it, where the letters of POW stand out, and the barbs
and the barbed wire,
and the barbed wire, and even the tear. Doesn't the deer?
No, the tear doesn't stand out.
Okay,
but there's a tear in the eagle's eye.
Okay,
yes, yeah.
So anyway, he flies that balloon all over these. How many balloon parades balloon shows are there? There's quite a few.
There's quite a few, yeah.
Yeah, they're all over.
We don't make it to all of them for sure, but we're trying to get to more of them.
Boise has it's a 5-day one here in Boise.
Right.
And when is that?
The Spirit of Boise is Labor Day weekend.
Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
So he'll be here if you're local and you want to come see it fly, and he has the 3D one. When do you go back to the Kentucky Derby?
We'll leave on April 22nd.
Okay, so he goes back, and there's a week event prior to the actual Kentucky Derby, right?
The Kentucky Derby balloon rally is the weekend before the actual Kentucky Derby. Yeah.
So anyway, he's going to tell us a little bit more about how he became a pilot, and how he transitioned into being a pilot as a balloon pilot, and then talk about the mission, how you can help support the mission of the POW MIA, where they're based out of. They're in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Mm-hmm. So that's where they're based out of. But he happens to live here because he's got family in the area, and he's from Minnesota. So if you listen carefully, you'll hear that. That Minnesota,
you betcha,
Canadian type conversation.
By golly, you're right.
So anyway, welcome back, Luke, for this episode.
Thanks, Pat.
And thanks for telling us, and thanks for your mission to support troops missing in action, the POWs, getting the awareness out to the public, and tell us a little bit more how you got started. You weren't born a hot air balloon pilot.
No.
You were in the Air Force, but that's not the same thing. They didn't fly balloons, so you had to learn to do this.
That's right, yeah. First of all, for people that want to know what POW MIA stands for, because we hand out a lot of these what we call hero cards. A lot of people call them trading cards, but on the back of the card, it actually shows how many people are still missing in action, and that we're prisoners of war. And that's what this is all about. There's a lot of people that in their 30s that can't tell me what POW MIA stands for, and that's what our whole mission is to promote the POW MIA issue through the use of the hot air balloons. It's like a flying billboard.
Yeah.
So
now let me ask you. So there is a separate group that is known for their POW MIA, or is it the same group? Are you work synonymously with them, or is this? Because I know the flag there's an organization.
The flag is public domain.
Public domain.
Yeah, there is no organization.
Oh, there's no organization.
No organization.
So I see them all over the place, especially on bikers.
Right.
Motorcycle riders.
But you also see them at the post office and stuff like
okay.
that. So it was.
So there's not a single organization for POW MIAs.
No.
It's just something that happened.
It's for public
on
awareness.
its own. It just kind of
right. It's to honor the over 80,000 people that we left behind, and also for all their families. That's why it says on there, "You are not forgotten." It's they're addressing it to them, the ones that we left behind.
Right.
But it's also for the families. because in the last year, there's been over 250 remains that were identified and brought home for burial. So, those families got closure.
Yeah.
And that's from the mitochondrial DNA testing to be able to do the DNA testing to identify who they are. They even identified some people in the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, that's phenomenal.
Well, and after World War II, I believe it was the president that said that all the people like in the USS Arizona that went upside down, capsized, and died in that ship, they said that was going to be their final resting place. But that's before they knew about the DNA testing and identification stuff.
Sure, science has been beneficial.
Exactly. So the Navy, very ceremoniously, the Navy divers will go down there and retrieve, remains and stuff like that, bring them up, again, very ceremoniously, and then they're tested for...
still to this day, they're still doing
To this
that.
day, yes. I remember about 15, 20 years ago, they talk about flying the Burma hump, where they flew across Burma and they were flying airplanes across there and stuff like that. And it was, like I say, about 15, 20 years ago, they found a B-17 that had crashed on the top of the mountain with all the remains in it. All the dog tags were there. So we're not giving up.
Were they purposefully looking for that plane, or just happened to see it?
They just happened to find it.
Just happened to find it.
Yeah.
So it's good that I think out of the whole world culturally, we're probably the most engaged with recovering the remains of our lost loved ones.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the thing that I'm very happy to see is that, like World War II, there was over 72,000 people that are still missing yet today.
Still missing.
And so from World War II to Korea, there's over 7,600 that are missing in Korea, 1,500 plus that were missing in Vietnam. The Cold War is down to about 100, and of course the global war on terror, which includes Afghanistan and Iraq and all the stuff that was going on for after 9/11. That's now down to 5. So you can see those numbers have come down over the years. And I believe it's because people are demanding that we keep track of our people and identify them and never leave anybody behind. Right.
So you're the only group bringing about this awareness on a regular basis, right?
With hot air balloons.
But what about is there other groups that are doing as much?
Yes. Yeah, there's the combat veteran motorcycle groups.
Okay.
There's a lot of other motorcycle groups that promote it and stuff like that. But we're the only ones that actually fly. It's a flying billboard, basically.
Flying billboard.
Yeah.
So you're very active in doing this.
We're doing 40 to 50 events every year.
That's a lot of events.
It's a lot of events, and we retired balloon number 1. We wore that out, and then we have we're flying 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 is the 3D balloon that I have in Caldwell Hill here, but that's where Scott McClinton from the Kentucky Derby called me up, and he's known me for years, but he says, hey, we want you there for the opening ceremony. There'll be over 70,000 people there Friday and Saturday morning, and we'll probably do the American flag. We'll take up some dignitaries, so we'll have a giant American flag hanging down below the basket, and we'll be taking off to the national anthem.
So just so you know, Luke and I, he's in my Knights Council, so we've had this conversation. So we shouldn't be hiding anything. So your mission, I lost my train of thought here, actually.
Yeah.
You do this
kind of like a ministry, I guess.
Yes, a ministry, but you're not paid. For one thing, right?
All volunteers, yeah.
All volunteers. You barely even get your expenses covered.
That's right.
So why? You've been doing this 34 years. Why?
Well,
if this is out of your own pocket and time and all that.
It's something that's near and dear to my heart as a Vietnam veteran. I don't like the fact that we left people behind, that we lost track of them, but it happened, and we want to make sure that people realize this and that there's still over 80,000 people that are still missing. So it's one of those things where when we did the honor flight trips, where we took the World War II veterans to Washington,
you were involved
DC.
in that as well?
We did 7 honor flight trips out of St. Cloud, Minnesota. And one of the things is we had one of the intelligence officers that was, very active during World War II and stuff, and he said that they kept track of how many people they lost in training accidents. And they said that during World War II and building up to it and stuff like that, there were over 15,000 people lost to training accidents. Some of them never to be found again because it was over the ocean and they just disappeared.
Right.
But yeah, it's amazing how much we sacrificed just to prepare for war, and then we went over there and helped them finish up World War II, and we came back and continued on with our lives. But then Korea happened, and Vietnam happened, and the Cold War happened, and
just keeps happening.
Well, it does, and it's unfortunate, but backing up, the reason this whole thing started is because there were a couple of psychologists that were operating out of the St. Cloud, Minnesota VA hospital, and one of them was doing his doctoral dissertation and stuff, and he decided to do it on the POW MIA issue on prisoners of war and missing in action. So he wrote this and finished that up, and then they talked about what would be the best, how to promote the POW MIA issue and really be out there and kind of out in people's
not just
faces.
Forget them, but actively, not just try to remember them, but actively do something about returning them home.
And to educate people to the fact that our government left people behind. And in a lot of cases, our government wasn't doing anything about it. It wasn't until the families got involved and said, "Hey, we want accountability here. We don't want to be told that he's just lost. And we don't know how. We want to know the details, and we want to know where it happened." And so, because of that, Freedom Flight and other organizations really started, working on it. I'm the League of Families, the POW MIA families that were out there trying to get answers and stuff. So that's kind of we're there to help support them and to help educate people to the fact that there's so many people missing.
Yeah, we all know the government can't be charitable, and they don't. It's not that government function is just to to provide certain things, but they can't really care. They can't really, because they've got so many other things on there. They probably take on way too much.
Yeah,
but the only ones that can really care are those that were either involved in one format or another by serving, or know people that are like, I want to know where my husband is. I want to know where my father is. I'd like to find out, and the government's not giving me answers.
No.
So the only way to do that is to take it on a very personal, basic level.
Yeah. The government just wanted to do a blanket. They're gone,
done.
They're missing. They're dead.
And move on.
But the problem was they were messing over families because sometimes they would say, okay, missing, presumed dead. Other times they just leave them as POW MIAs, and the families weren't getting any compensation for their loved one being gone. Widows and that kind of stuff. They need to have some kind of payment or something from the government.
Let me ask you though. You bring that they were just listing as POW MIA and leaving it at that. Were any of them also considered maybe AWOL? I mean, could they assume that some of them were deserters and put them in that category and not put them in that category or whatever?
It's funny how people bring that up, but they said that there is such a small. I mean, it's like less than 1% would have been AWOL, that kind of stuff.
Well, I know, but what I'm asking is, was it possible the government said, well, they just disappeared. This went missing.
Exactly.
And that left the families even more angry because we know our father or husband, he would never do that.
Exactly.
I mean I can't. I mean, I'm just trying to cover all the bases of what the government could just do just because they want to be like Pilate, wash their hands of it and move on.
Yeah.
And the family members be damned.
Exactly. Yeah. And so a lot of people support the families by promoting the POW MIA issue and letting people know that we're not going to forget about these people. We want full accountability. We want to at some point be able to retire the balloons and say we don't have to do this anymore. We found everybody.
Right.
We got some answers.
Right. Speaking of retiring, again, we he's in my Knights Council. We've had these private conversations, but he just mentioned a little while ago, and this is where I lost my train of thought, but I'm bringing it back. I'm bringing it back home.
It's back on the track.
You mentioned you retired the first balloon, number one.
Yes.
So what constitutes the retirement of a balloon?
Well, the balloon is like any other aircraft. It has to go through an annual inspection. They all have N numbers. So like a registration number on the side of an airplane, they have that on the side of the balloon and stuff too. So every year it has to go through an annual inspection. They have to check the materials and stuff like that. So they do pull tests on it. They also do porosity tests. So they see how porous it is. Mm-hmm. The balloon material is a very light ripstop nylon, but it's chemically coated on the inside to protect it from the heat and also to keep it from being porous for the air to flow through it.
Right.
You want to
you don't want a porous balloon. You want the whole air.
Well, you end up burning up a lot of fuel.
Keeping it afloat.
Trying to keep it afloat. That's right. Yeah.
Can repairs be made on a balloon?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Well, they talk about
like duct tape. You put duct tape on the side.
No, we don't use duct tape. No.
Come on! I thought duct tape fixed everything.
Yeah, it doesn't want to stick very well.
It doesn't stretch very good either.
They talk about there's pilots that will burn their balloon, and there's those the other ones will. It's one of those things where you got to really pay attention. Especially when you're putting the heat into it to inflate it, because you totally inflate the balloon with cold air using a big fan, mm-hmm. and then you put the heat down the middle without touching any of the material.
Right.
If it touches the material, it melts a hole just like that.
I've seen, it's quite a feat. Yeah, that's where you need most of your volunteers to keep holding the sides out, right?
No. Actually, once you get it full of cold air and the fan has got it completely full, it stays open. By itself. Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
But the big thing is you got to make sure
it's still laying on its side, kind of.
It's laying absolutely on its side.
Because it can't float with cold air.
That's right.
It's the same temperature it is outside.
You put the heat right down the middle, and then of course the flames go in about 35 to 40 feet, and then they.
Oh, really? They go in that far?
Oh yeah, because the balloon's 95 feet tall. So
okay. All of them, or just
the ones that we fly? Yeah.
Okay.
And so once the heat goes in, of course, it goes up to the top of the material and stuff, and it starts to gather up there, and then it starts to lift it off the ground, and then of course as the whole thing comes up, then it all is up near the top.
Now I've seen a few. I've actually floated, or what is a passenger in a balloon? Hot air. Mm-hmm. I've actually.
You've flown in a balloon.
Flown in a balloon.
Yeah.
I've been in a balloon twice, and I took my wife up and on our first anniversary or second anniversary, mm-hmm. It's in Palm Springs, on a balloon flight, and it was fun. It was it was such a, I mean, it's like having a what are those drones? Mm-hmm. It's like having a drone in your, but you're personally up there looking, and it's so phenomenal because you're so close and you can see so many details. We were flying over backyards and people swimming pool and waving at them. It was so cool, and people lived there and they loved all the balloons that flew over their house all the time.
I think the best description I ever heard was it was the high school royalty that I took up in Hudson, Wisconsin. It was in the wintertime and stuff, and one of the gals looks over at the other one and says, this is just like floating in a dream. Yeah. And I think that's the best description I've ever had. So,
yeah, lightweight. You're looking around. You're not moving very fast. You can see things, like in an airplane, just like shoom,
That's right. You're going against the wind to create the lift in an airplane. Because see, I fly airplanes too, and I have since I was 15, I started flying lessons, and then I got all my ratings and stuff when I got out of the service. So I got my commercial, my instrument, my multi-engine, and my flight instructor's rating. And then that all happened in the late 70s, early 80s. And then in 1990, this gal gave me a ride in a hot air balloon, and I thought, well, I can do this stuff too, Well, and
so
I added that to my license.
Speaking of, you're flying against the wind to get lift in an airplane, but you're flying with the air, with the wind. Yep. Win a hot air balloon, and that makes it wind free.
Exactly.
I mean, you don't feel the wind
because you're 10 mile an hour wind, breeze.
You would never know it.
But when you take off, you're part of.
Don't hit my mic.
No, I won't hit your mic. but you're part of that air mass, so you're moving through that, and so it's always calm in the basket.
Yeah, and not only that, but it's so quiet because you don't hear the whistling. You're moving the exact same speed as the wind that's pushing you around, and so it just, other than the firing of the jets, if you can shut up long enough, you actually hear dead silence. I mean, if you're over a golf course or desert, it is so peaceful.
Well, it depends on how low you are too, because if you're going over the golf course and you're at treetop level, you'll hear people say 4.
Well, yeah. But what I'm getting at was that whenever you're flowing over area where you don't see traffic and you don't hear,
it's quiet.
It's so quiet. It's so peaceful. It was so unbelievably unique. That if you haven't experienced it, please do. And you guys, I know you sell flights for that. But so 700 hours is about the life of a balloon, right?
Yeah, it depends on how well you take care of it.
Right.
But yeah, you can get 700 to maybe 1,000 hours out of it.
Okay, so you can get a little more, and if it passes inspection, and the guy comes in and says, now is this a government agency? Is it a private guy that inspects it?
Well, it's an authorized inspector.
Okay.
And of course, they're all certified by the government, by the Federal Aviation Administration. So. But the one thing I want to say too is this whole organization is run by a lot of different volunteers. It's not just me.
What? You're not the only one doing it.
Ballooning is a team sport. I won't fly the balloon unless I have 5 or 6 people there. To help with the balloon.
And that's what you need to get the balloon up.
Exactly. But the whole organization, and I kind of joke about this because. Here I am, a lowly buck sergeant that came out of the Air Force, security police dog handler, and now my vice president of the organization is a retired 2-star general from the Army, and I have 2 other retired full bird colonels that are on our board of directors too.
Taking orders from you.
Taking orders from me, yes, exactly.
Because you run the whole show.
I've been president for the last 25 years, and
no one else wants the job.
Well, the thing is it only makes sense to have a pilot as one of the the president and CEO of the organization, but we have a number of people that volunteer for the organization that have nothing to do with the military, but they support what we do. Linda does a great job of helping to coordinate everything. John Pearson, it's like he's just such a go-getter. He's going all the time and getting things for our fundraiser and stuff. We just finished our fundraiser, by the way, too. So it's kind of nice to have a little bit of money back in the bank so that we can, go on to the next events. Because what we try to do is we'll try to go to different ballooning events or even non-ballooning events, maybe a place where they're having the Vietnam Traveling Wall. And we'll try to go to these things maybe the first time being self-sponsored, so we pay for it ourselves.
Right.
And then what we try to do is then try to, kind of meet up with American Legions and VFWs and that kind of stuff, because if they've got charitable gambling and stuff like that, they need to give that money to 501c3 nonprofits.
Right.
Plus, they're also chartered to do so much POW MIA awareness stuff throughout the year. So we really fit that niche for them. Right. But there's so many individuals. The reason I wasn't at the meeting last night is because we were doing our after-action review for our fundraiser. And so I was doing a Zoom meeting.
Speaking of that, they have an annual fundraiser.
Yes, we do.
That takes place the same time every year?
Yep, pretty much the end of March, yeah.
Okay, so it's an online event. That's one of the great things about the internet and online activities is that now you have a broader scope of people that can take interest in something instead of just relying on the St. Cloud area I'm sure that your regional...
St. Cloud, Minnesota,
yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm sure when you first started doing the auction, you weren't as accessible, so it really came from a smaller pot of people. But now you have people that can online bid online. So exactly. You have a website,
but we also have people from all over the United States donating things to it. So it's actually become a very national thing because there's For instance, Mercer Wines out of Prosser, Washington, donates a huge bottle of one of those Magnum bottles of wine
That'll take a half a day to drink.
It's a patriotic bottle of wine and stuff. It's worth about $300, and
phenomenal.
Yeah, and so they donate that, and then people can bid on it, and then they ship it to wherever the winner is.
Yeah, that's the great thing about the internet and online stuff like that. So tell me, how was the result? I mean, you have a goal. I think you set a goal of your funds you're trying to raise.
Well, with the raffle that we have, we do a raffle.
When does that raffle end?
That raffle ended on Saturday.
Did I win anything?
If you weren't called, you didn't win anything. But
well, I thought you called. Didn't you call me last night?
There were 10 winners. So
and I wasn't one of them.
Yeah, but it's through Shields, and they're building a brand new Shields in.
I heard that
in Meridian. So
I heard that.
Yeah. So next year it'll be kind of nice because then I can sell all around the valley here, and all over the place because. Any of the winners can then go to Shields, and then you can trade it towards anything in the store because what we typically do is we call it a gun raffle. But when you win, like say, for instance, if you win the top gun, it's about $1,100, our cost for that gun. But you can go to Shields and you can get $1,100 worth of fishing equipment if you want to. So you can. So
is Shields the only sponsor now?
For our raffle, yes.
And now do they help sell the tickets themselves?
No. We
can you promote that in their stores?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but what has worked the best for us, and John, one of our volunteers, a retired full-bird colonel, he's figured this out. I'll tell you, he goes out with books of tickets, and then he recruits people to sell for him. And so he's got like 30 or 40, maybe even more people that are selling books of tickets. And then he goes and collects the money and gets some more tickets, and until we get all 2,500 tickets sold.
I wish we had that kind of action in our Knights of Columbus for our raffle, but maybe we'll get there.
Well, it helps to lower the price of the ticket, but have more tickets. But that's where you got to have good volunteers to go out and really sell
either way, you got to sell when you have a limited ticket, it doesn't matter what the price is. If you're not having people out there selling them, there's no one buying them.
That's exactly right.
So you can go either way on that. It doesn't really matter. You got to be, when they do the car raffle for the St. Vincent de Paul, they only do so many tickets. It's $100 a ticket.
Yep.
But they're pushing them. I mean, they actively are selling them throughout all the St. Vincentians throughout the valley. So anyway.
Yes.
So getting back to the balloon.
Well, let's go back to the fundraiser because
well, that's what
we did have a goal of trying to raise $30,000 this year.
Okay.
And we didn't quite meet that. We kind of exceeded it, so we ended up with $57,000 that we raised, which is good because that'll get us to more.
Now that's
events.
just off the auction itself, not the gun.
That's the auction and the gun raffle, everything combined.
Oh,
together.
combined.
Yes,
okay.
So there's a lot of people that we send out a donation request letter and stuff, and what their corporations will do is they'll just send us a check rather than trying to do something else. So I think we ended up with like $22,000 in checks. So
in addition to the $57,000,
no,
that's all told.
That's all told. Yeah,
well,
yeah.
It's still a mission that draws even today. Now you've been doing this 34 years, and you haven't seen the interest in this wane. You've actually seen it increase over time. So I mean that's good. That's really good to know that we aren't losing interest in those that have fought and lost their lives for our freedom and for the freedoms. Believe it or not, they're fighting for others' freedoms as well because we're not just fighting for our own selfish reasons. We're out there to try to protect the little guy as well out there and create opportunities for anyone around the world.
That's why we were in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Is because the communist Vietnamese in North Vietnam were trying to take over South Vietnam. And if it wasn't for our
involvement,
but if it wasn't for our what do you want to call it? Our politicians that basically tied our hands. We walked out of Vietnam and gave it to the North
Right.
Vietnamese. I mean, we wasted a lot of time and a lot of lives and a lot of money in Vietnam.
You can say what happened after 20 years in Afghanistan. We walk away and
Exactly
and
right.
didn't finish up right.
Yeah,
Just because politicians decided
they tied our
yeah,
hands.
Yeah,
I mean, we could have easily won those wars,
absolutely.
except that it wasn't. It was all politics.
Well, we don't want to get that far into the weeds of things, but
Yeah.
But granted, even though war is bad, the duty and the mission behind the men that serve, their mission is true to them. It's true for the purpose of providing freedom and keeping tyranny from happening across the world.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we don't want to go too far into that because we're here to talk about the freedom flight, but this just goes to show you that we're committed to resolving the POW and MIAs that have been since World War II. We don't really have gone back any further than that, or
We haven't done a very good job of keeping track.
keeping track.
Yeah.
We're doing a better job now.
Much better. Much better.
So, are there any current prisoners of war?
Yes.
That
Well, not that I know of personally, but I know that that during the global war on terror, there's still 5 people that are missing yet. We don't know where they're at.
Okay.
They could still be alive. And I'm a Vietnam veteran. I mean, who knows about the prisoners that they had witnesses of people being marched across the China border. That never returned. There was people missing yet. So.
now those 5 are just American soldiers.
Yes, we're just talking about America.
We don't. Is anyone keeping track of the? I know there was a lot of other foreign involvement.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone keep track of those?
We leave this up to the other countries.
Right,
Yeah.
but are you aware of anything? I mean, is there a level of POW, MIA organizations in those other countries doing the same thing, or is this the only one that really?
This is the only one that's really active.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of sad that I'm sure the people would like to know, but I'm sure that there's just nothing
Yes.
out there.
Now,
It's
one
good
of
to
the
know
things-
what America really stands for.
One of the things that I
sometimes.
got to say too is that Vietnam and the Vietnamese people have been very good about sharing locations of crash sites and people that were buried and buried burial
Still today, huh?
still today. But of course, COVID and stuff slowed everything down.
Of course.
And then, the big thing is we had elderly folks that were alive and took care of the prisoners, that kind of stuff, people that were shot down, things like that. Some of them died in their care. Some of them were transported up to the Hanoi Hilton up in North Vietnam. But the big thing is they're still following through on the leads. So there's
and who's they?
Well, there's government entities, but there's also private entities
Okay.
too that are.
Are they working together on these
Yes.
things? Okay,
Yes, they
that's
are.
good to know.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this segment, we didn't want to go too long. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of stories you can tell and stuff like that, but just know that people are still blessing your mission and your effort. You're getting a lot of young people as well as older people that come and enjoy the balloon itself. And now, so these balloons are pretty cheap, right?
Well, you're looking at about $100,000 to replace the 3D balloon that we have, right? I mean, that would include the upper
That's
part.
pocket change, right?
That's pocket change. That's right. Yes. So we do give rides around the valley and stuff like that. There are a number of ride vendors, I guess, that give balloon rides, and they're somewhere in the neighborhood of $400 per person to go for a ride. And because we're all volunteers and we want to promote the issue and use the balloons in the valley and stuff like that, we're asking for a $250 donation per person. So
the flight is not just up and down. It's
anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and
Okay.
a half. If it's nice flying, we're going to keep going.
Yeah. Well, you're up in the air.
That's right.
Yeah, why not?
Well, and then we're recruiting other pilots. There's a pilot that lives here in Boise that is actually going to fly to Centralia, Illinois, and meet up with one of our balloons there and do that event because I
Nice.
can't do them all.
Yeah. So I'm a landscaper and a farmer, and I have a weed burner. Now, I'm not simplifying this beyond its I'm sure those jets are a little more, but it's
25 million BTUs per burner.
Wow, per burner?
Per burner.
But it's kind of still got the shape of a weed burner. I mean, is that...
It's got a ring of nozzles. I think there's 8 to 10 nozzles inside of here that are shooting raw propane. Your weed burner's running on fumes off the top of the tank.
Oh, really?
We run liquid propane. So that gives us the most heat. That's why those things are so powerful. 25 million BTUs per burner. So I got 50 million BTUs if I hit both.
So out of the little jet, it comes out liquid.
Yes.
And then bursts. It vaporizes quickly.
You saw those coils, right?
Yeah.
On the top of the burners and stuff like that. Well, the liquid propane's coming up, and it's going all the way to the top of those coils and getting preheated all the way down, so that when it comes out of those nozzles, it's at a vapor.
Of such a high...
That's right. And see, propane doesn't burn until it becomes a vapor.
A vapor, right, exactly.
So you can take liquid propane.
It's just very cold.
Liquid propane is 40 below zero.
Yeah, it's very cold.
Yeah. And so I remember in Minnesota where we took a cup of liquid propane, and it was about 38 below zero that day. And we had packed snow in the driveway, and I poured that propane into the packed snow on the driveway, and I lit that, and it burned for 4.5 minutes because it only burns off the vapor. So it was burning about this far above the.
So how many of these cylinders are on a?
I have two 25-gallon propane cylinders inside, and
but I meant the nozzles or the jets or the burners. How many are on? Is it just one?
What?
Burner. Per balloon.
Tank.
Per balloon. Oh, per tank.
Per tank.
Oh, so you have 2 tanks.
Yes.
And how big are these tanks?
25 gallons each.
Only 25 gallons each? Okay.
But they're 25 gallons of liquid.
Yeah.
So
how does... Okay, we get into the weeds on that. I'm more curious than probably you guys are, but that's interesting that you can get liquid. So it's got to be highly compressed to get liquid in there.
It's at about 250 pounds of pressure.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. So... Anyway, that's just interesting. Yes, but they still have a cylinder. They come out, they burn, and it's very hot. But how far is that flame? You said 30 feet into
35 to 40 feet
as it goes from red, blue to to yellow up at the top.
That's right. That's right.
That's amazing. Yeah. So that's amazing.
Well, the one thing about propane too is when you see the burners where it's really a bright flame, because there's 2 different kinds of burns.
Right.
One of them is the preheated one, and that's the big blast valves, and that's 25 million. But there's also another burner there that we call the whisper burner because it's not quite it doesn't have that roar like the other ones, but it's just throwing raw propane straight up, so you can actually see a stream of liquid propane going up about this far, and then it turns into flame.
Wow. Okay.
But it's a very dirty burn, so it's real bright.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's handy at the night glow when they do the night glow
That's
events.
exactly right. Yeah.
So, if you're in the Boise area, he's here in the Treasure Valley with the balloon, but he does travel all over the place. So, when is the next opportunity if someone's here locally, or your website, mention that eventually, but when is your next opportunity right here in the Treasure Valley?
If they go to
where they can get a flight if they want to pay for a flight.
Oh, well, yeah, they can just call me up directly.
Oh, you could schedule flights.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
So you'll do private flights if people want to.
Yes. Yeah.
You offer that now on a regular basis, or is they just have?
No, we offer it now. Yeah, it's not like we do it as a business though. Our whole business is promoting the POW and MIA issue. Right. So we want to get out and fly it. But it's not like we're trying to raise funds by going out and doing all these.
But you will. But how many people, do you have a minimum of people that you would recommend for set up a single flight?
Yeah, 3 or 4 people. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So a lot of times, I'll make them a little bit of a deal if they want to buy all 4 spots in the balloon. Otherwise, what we try to do is we try to find people that will go together on the flight.
So if I had a special group and I wanted to go up in your balloon, I'd just call you, hey, Luke, let's can we do this on this day? You have the day.
Yeah.
You do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
remember that ballooning is a very fair weather sport, so you never see balloons during the middle of the day.
No.
You always see them
early morning
in
or
the
late
morning.
evening.
Yep. So our rule of thumb is basically the first 2 hours after sunrise on for 2 hours, and then maybe the last 2 hours before sunset. That's when the air is more stabilized and stuff.
So let me do you know of how many balloons are here locally?
I would guess somewhere around 15 or 20.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
But, so, because I've seen them up there from time to time, doing balloon rides, so they're available.
And so you were talking about our schedule and stuff. This is our schedule.
They can't see that.
I know, 2023. But they can go to freedomflight.org and go to events, and they can pull this schedule up.
Okay.
We try to keep that updated. The last time I updated, I think, was yesterday.
And is your phone number on there? Is all the pilot? So this gets some reach. My podcast does.
Yes.
So you could find out where pilots are or what they're available, but you're the only one out of here. All the other balloons are in St. Cloud, Minnesota.
There's 3 in St. Cloud, Minnesota. But I've got, like I say, 8 volunteer pilots now, or 9. We got guys that have flown for a number of years that are retiring now, and they want to do more flying for Freedom Flight. So
if someone wanted a private event, host a private event, say a big Knights of Columbus shindig or something like that, they could call up and say, hey, come on down, and we'd love to have you here.
Yes.
Well, that's interesting. That's good to know. But he is the only one outside of St. Cloud that has a balloon on site so we're very blessed and honored to have a balloon right here in our midst.
Our trailer actually says Eagle, Idaho, but that's where we were going to move to. We ended up actually moving into Caldwell, but we left Eagle, Idaho on the side of that.
Because Eagle, I know.
Well, we like to fly, we like to fly out of Eagle Island Park.
Oh.
So that's
And do you have to get a permit for that? I mean, is there
just a day use permit? Okay. Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
Well, again, we're getting a little long in the tooth here on this podcast. Don't want to drive everyone out. I'm interested, but if you are, just get a hold of Luke Sesnick.
Yes.
The phone number will be available on the website, freedomflight.org. Okay.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So let's end this. Thank you, Luke, for coming in, and we'll end with the St. Michael's prayer in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit.
Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Man Cave, a weekly podcast discussing the issues that affect Catholic men in today's culture. A production of Salt and Light Radio in Boise, Idaho. To learn more about our ministry, please visit our website, saltandlightradio.com.